pictured myself traveling for work, carrying a shiny briefcase, and doing some kind of job where I was an expert. In what? It didn't matter, and people came to me for guidance. When I was 12 years old, the Montana judicial system allowed me to decide where to live, and I moved to my dad's house. Life changed overnight. Dad, who came from a long line of hardy German Mennonite homesteaders, was disciplined and industrious. He had a real job, as a loan officer at a small bank, so suddenly I was in a stable home environment. He made sure I did my homework and never missed school. I found that I loved learning, and for the first time, I experienced the exhilaration of accomplishing goals. Within 6 months, I went from almost straight Fs to almost straight As, and my taciturn dad nearly burst with pride. And so began my addiction to external validation and an overactive need to achieve. As did a strong fear of disappointing my dad, especially after he'd rescued me from a life of hardship. With this mix of motivations, I excelled in high school, and college started to look like a realistic possibility. Though we were no longer poor, there was no money for extras, so I knew I'd have to figure out tuition on my own. I got a job as a dishwasher at the Busy Bee truck stop in Roundup, Montana, and saved every penny I could. I won 3 small academic scholarships and took out student loans to cover the rest. And just like that, I was off to college, the first in my family to do so. I supported myself by working 3 jobs: a bookkeeper at a law firm, cocktail waitress at a dive bar, and selling software in the mall. When I ran out of money, I'd take a semester off and work more until I could save up enough to cover my living expenses. I kept that up throughout college, always with 1 if not 2 jobs while carrying a full load of courses. Some days, I didn't know whether I was coming or going, and I felt frequently overwhelmed. But I was terrified of running out of money, and even more terrified of not finishing. Thus began my habit of playing through the pain. It was my junior year in college when I had my first run-in with major stress and burnout. I was doing a full course load of upper-level classes I'd really been looking forward to, but my boss at the law firm loved my work and wanted me to add hours. The approval was like a drug, and I couldn't say no. Plus, who was I to turn down extra money? At the same time, the classes were everything I'd hoped for. I threw myself into studying, and I'm not gonna lie, the thrill of succeeding, whether it was acing an exam or coming up with another tuition payment, was downright addictive. I worked even harder, got by on a few hours sleep a night, and subsisted on turkey sausage and sauerkraut, straight out of the frugal German Mennonite handbook. My sole form of stress relief was to party like it was 1999. By midterms, I was exhausted, both physically and mentally. I developed an ulcer and could barely eat, which left me even more fatigued. Still, I didn't slow down. I didn't know how, and truthfully, didn't want to. I was desperately afraid of failing and being thrust back into my former life. A concerned friend suggested I try counseling. It helped, insofar as I was willing and able to let it. I gained some awareness of how deeply stressed I was, and of how my bad coping routines, drinking, overwork, perfectionism, were exacerbating my stress. But I wasn't ready to give them up, or put in the deep work that was needed to examine where my unhealthy coping mechanisms came from. Honestly, I don't blame myself. No one is ready for that sort of work until they're ready, and for me, it would be many more years. And of course, I'm telling you this story with the benefit of hindsight. Back then, I just knew that I was full of doubt and fear. Remaining very, very busy helped me stay 2 steps ahead of it. Then a silver lining appeared. After graduation, I enrolled in an MBA program, and I absolutely loved it. I was so taken with the experience, the coursework, the brilliant professors and students, the possibilities opening up exponentially, that it was as if there were no extra room for all my old self-doubts and fears. For the first time, I re-experienced the joy of learning just for the sake of learning. It was there that I learned about the concept of eustress, or good stress. This is a kind of stress that leaves you feeling motivated and challenged instead of overwhelmed and ineffective. In this state, my overachieving habits seemed to deliver excellent results, but without the high price that bad stress exacts. I sailed through the program in a sort of flow state and graduated at the top of my class. I applied for 6 jobs and received offers.